Welcome to Alert Tales, where we dive deep into the most gripping stories of real-life experiences. If you love tales that evoke emotion, spark conversation, and connect us all, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our community for more captivating stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. I didn't invite my father to my wedding because years ago he told me I was no longer part of his family. I'm 28 and will be getting married next month. I didn't invite my father to the wedding, but now he's trying to get in touch. I think I need to explain the context, because it all started when I was 6 years old, when my parents got divorced after my dad cheated on my mom with my stepmother. After that, I spent most of my time with my mom, but during holidays and vacations, I stayed with my dad. When I was 8, my half-brother Jake was born, and whenever I was with my dad, I was forced to take care of him. When I started high school, I had to move in with my dad because my mom had to move abroad for work. This period was one of the hardest of my life. My stepmother wasn't a bad person. She tried to include me in things, but she was very submissive to my father. As for my dad, he always treated me like an extra in the house, someone who didn't really belong there. I was constantly responsible for taking care of Jake, and whenever he went out, he would only take my stepmother and Jake, never inviting me. One of the most painful experiences happened when I was 14. My dad announced that the whole family was going to Disney for vacation, but the day before the trip, he told me that he wanted it to be a family moment, their first big trip with Jake. So I was left home alone. This had already become a pattern. Trips to the beach, zoos, or other outings always included just my stepmother and Jake while I was left behind. My dad didn't like me going out with friends or inviting them over. He said teenagers together only cause trouble, and because he was controlling, he would call the house phone at random times to check if I was home. He also had a trusted neighbor who would keep an eye on me to make sure I didn't have any visitors. When I turned 16 living with him, the feeling of being an extra only got worse. Everything I had experienced during vacations, the exclusion and sense of abandonment, became part of my daily life. Things came to a head when I turned 18. My dad got a promotion at work and decided to take a family trip to Europe. Since it was my last year of high school, I was excited, thinking I'd finally be included. But then he told me he didn't have enough money for a trip for 4, so it would just be to celebrate Jake's 10th birthday. I had to stay home. That's when I snapped. I told him he was being unfair and that he shouldn't have given me false hope. I explained how I'd felt over the past years, and he called me ungrateful and spoiled, saying that I lived with him rent-free, which was a lie since my mom sent money to support me and I did all the housework because both he and my stepmother worked late. The argument escalated and he kicked me out of the house, saying I was no longer part of the family and not even his daughter. He literally threw me out and tossed my things onto the sidewalk. Luckily, a friend lived nearby and I stayed at her place that night. The next day I went back to see if my dad had calmed down, but I found my things still on the sidewalk and some even in the trash. My stepmother had kindly saved a few items for me and handed them over. After that, my dad never reached out except to call and yell at me a month later when my mom stopped sending him money for my expenses. A few months later, I got into an engineering program in another state where I met my now fiancé, Mark. He was a senior and we soon connected, realizing we had a lot in common. We started dating, graduated, and now work in the same field, though at different companies. A few months ago, Mark proposed and I happily said yes. I have social media, but I rarely use it. I've had Instagram for about 6 years, but haven't even posted 10 pictures. I think one of my relatives must have told my dad about the wedding because about a month after I accepted the proposal, he reached out to me through Instagram saying he was excited to help with the wedding. I was surprised both that he had messaged me and that he genuinely thought he would walk me down the aisle. I responded saying he wouldn't be walking me down the aisle because my stepfather would, and that the wedding would be small just for my close family. After that, I blocked him. After blocking him and inspired by reading Reddit stories, I expected calls, messages, and even letters full of insults like ungrateful or spoiled. However, the only thing I received was a letter delivered by Jake. Yes, we still have contact. In the letter, my father expressed how sorry he was. I won't copy the exact words, but to summarize, He said that after kicking me out, he lived a normal life with my stepmother and Jake, but when he saw pictures of my graduation with my mum and stepfather, he started feeling regret. He wanted to talk to me, but his pride held him back. He only decided to reach out now because he realized that his pride got him nowhere and that he wanted to fulfill one of the plans he made when I was born, to pay for my wedding and walk me down the aisle. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I've moved on with my life, and his attempt at redemption after so many years feels a bit too convenient. What do you all think? Should I consider his apology or stick with my decision to not include him in my wedding? Note, my stepfather is an amazing person. He always goes out of his way to include me in everything, and my stepsisters are wonderful as well. When he found out that my father hadn't taken me to Disney, he planned a trip for the next holiday and took me along with my mother and sisters. This and 1,000 other reasons why I want to walk down the aisle with him. I feel disgusting having sex, and it's because of my mother. For years I had to listen to her having sex with different partners, but the worst was for the past 4 years she found a new boyfriend and they've been having sex in our house only because he lives with his dad and his dad doesn't know they're dating. Our house is very small and you hear literally everything from every room. It's disgusting. And no matter how many times I've confronted her about it, no matter how many times I said it was bothering me after she literally asked, she would always say that she doesn't care. And I hated how she started making so many conversations and jokes with me and my sister sexual. I've thankfully moved out a few months ago in another town, but I can't stand having sex even though I want to. Almost every single time there's something that reminds me of my mother. If I moan, suddenly hearing her for hours on end would cross my mind and I would get turned off and feel so disgusting. Same goes for bed creaking, slapping, the clapping noise, almost everything, and I hate it. I can't have proper sex and like it because of it. I feel so disgusting because I literally think of my mother while I'm having sex, and once her having sex crosses my mind, I literally want to cry because I can't enjoy something as simple as sex, or because she had no shame nor consideration for her children. I was literally 11 when it started. I'm 18 now. And you know what's even worse? I visit her 2 weekends a month because I'm bored and because I miss all my cats. And she can't even hold out on having sex literally in the living room for those 4 days a month I visit her. I hate it, and I'm starting to hate my mother for it. I don't know what to do anymore. I think my sisters hate me because of our mum. I live with my 2 sisters, Ava and Mackenzie, and my parents. My mum has always preferred me to my sisters, and it's begun to harm our relationship. Here are some of the many examples this favoritism has shown. A couple of months ago, Ava came home from hanging out with her boyfriend crying because they had gotten into a fight over something small, and it escalated to him yelling at her and calling her a fucking bitch. Ava then broke up with him. After making her recount what had happened, all my mum could say was, "Oh, I always liked him. You're being so dramatic. That's just the way boys talk." It was only like a week later when me and my girlfriend broke up because I simply didn't feel close to her anymore. My mum told me I was valid and justified and that she'd never really liked her anyway. My other sister is extremely intelligent and was the 2nd or 3rd best student in her class last year when she was still in high school. Mackenzie is currently enrolled in one of the top universities in the country for her major. When she got accepted last year, me and Ava were both really proud of her, while my mum consistently tried guilt-tripping her by remarking how expensive tuition was and how she didn't know how she was going to afford it. We are very comfortable, and Mackenzie had a job all throughout her senior year and is also working part-time at her campus's library to help pay for it. Meanwhile, all I have to do is get a B+ or higher on a test and my mum will brag about it to all the family and her friends. Both me and Ava play sports, mine being basketball and Ava's being volleyball. The other night, the 2 of us had games, but Ava's ended about half an hour after mine. When I got home, I asked if I needed to do the dishes and take out the trash, to which my mum responded that of course I didn't need to and I should go upstairs and get some rest. A little while later, I heard Ava come home, and after a brief conversation on how the game went, my mum told Ava to do the chores. Annoyed, Ava asked her if I could do one, so it split up the work, to which my mum responded, "No, he's tired from his basketball game." Ava was furious and didn't talk to me this morning. Lately, my relationship with my sisters has become damaged. In the last few weeks Mackenzie was here, I noticed her acting cold and distant. She never calls me now, though I hear her having long phone conversations with Ava and even my parents. Ava and I used to be close, but we hardly talk anymore, and once during an argument when my mum sided with me, she yelled that of course the golden child would get his way. I overheard her referring to me by calling me her spoiled brother when talking to her friend, and it pains me to admit that it's perfectly accurate. I love my sisters very much, but I think that they dislike me, and it's making me heavily resent my mum. I just don't know what to do. Thanks for reading. Bye.